How long can construction stop traffic? You've probably been driving down the road and been annoyed at the traffic control and at lane closures and at detours, and we all understand this. And we don't, in construction, want to prolong that for any motorist, anybody that's out there as a, I'll just say civilian, but on a motorcycle or in a car or in a truck, or anybody making deliveries, keeping our economy going. We must make sure that in construction, we're really catering to motorists and pedestrians and narrowing the amount of time that we're interrupting traffic. And so this is a really, really big concept. Now, if you are a general contractor or a trade partner or an owner, you can't just assume we're going to shut down large parts of the city and the roadways. It is very difficult to get closures, like traffic closures at times. And even if you're able to get them, we want to reduce that. So if you want in this video to know the average times and some of the things that you can do to minimize the impact for motorists and pedestrians, then you have come to the right place. Stay with us. Okay, I really want to get right into it and give you some average times for how long construction can impact a roadway or a sidewalk and what the average durations are. So let's just get right into it. Okay, utility work can be several hours to several days. Road resurfacing can be several days to several weeks. Bridge repairs can be several weeks to several months. Major road construction can be several months to several years. And major highway expansions are typically anywhere from 1 to 3 years. So you can kind of gauge, based on what's happening, how long that impact will be to motorists and pedestrians. Especially if you're using this video to get to work or to analyze your access to a construction project or to your business, right? So these are some of the average durations. What I want to talk about in this video is what you should expect and what you should plan for if you are actually planning this work as the contractor, which means the GC or the trade partner, because we must reduce the impact. So let me talk about the mindset just right out of the gate. The mindset is this: we always look at the situation like our grandmother was driving, walking, or living on the corner, right? So how can we reduce the impact on the people using these permanent structures, the roads and the sidewalks, right? And the people around our project. When we go into planning, we never look at it like, oh, here's the project, this is what I want. What I want is not a part of the conversation. What I need and what would be a win-win for the contractor and the motorists and pedestrians is a part of the consideration. So one of the best project directors I've ever worked with said, you've got to consider that first and foremost, right? He said, how will people drive through here? How will they get to work? How will they access the buildings? How will pedestrians actually traverse your site and get around it? We need to look at the flow there first. What is the movement of people? What is the movement of cars? And let's see if we can find a win-win, even if that means that we have some additional planning or we have some other hoops that we get to jump through as the general contractor. Now, you might already hate this video. I hope you've already liked and subscribed before this, because you're thinking, Jay Money, I just want all the roads shut down around me. I want all the room to myself. But think about it like this. What if you were driving past this project every day? Would that be healthy to the local businesses and to the economy? No, that's probably not the right answer. We understand that short-term projects are probably hours and days. Mid-term are probably days and weeks. Long-term are probably months and years. And the big projects are years. The more complex and the longer the duration, the better the accommodations need to be. Dedicated lanes, dedicated access, dedicated signage, and make sure we have dedicated walkways that keep people safe. I remember a really prominent general superintendent talking to me about projects that they used to do, I won't tell you what part of the United States, but that were so complex that they just assumed, not the general contractor, but the public entity just assumed that 1 or 2 people were going to die in an accident or as a pedestrian in and around the area. They just knew it was going to happen based on historical statistics. And that's a tragedy. We should plan for 0 injuries or deaths. And let me tell you some of the things that we can consider as we plan this work. Okay, so number 1, understand what kind of construction it is, right? Short-term, mid-term, long-term, right? Or massive expansions. That's going to give you your perspective. So along that range, the more complex, the longer it takes, the better your preparations need to be, right? And when you get shorter durations, you're gonna have to get more clear with of pedestrians and motorists with great signage and really great installs for your traffic control, so that that variation, the short-term changes that you're putting in place, are easy for motorists and pedestrians to adapt to and visually see through proper signage, right? So that's the first consideration. Second consideration is any regulations, right? The local city and county rules for this will be very important, right? Let me just give you an example. Like downtown Phoenix, most of the time it's automatically denied. You want to shut down a roadway or a lane, the default is no. You have to have some very extenuating circumstances to shut down downtown traffic, right? So you have to consider local regulations when you're doing your planning. And that will include within that, those permissions, permitting, traffic management plans, and public notice requirements to make sure that it's not a surprise to the people, the pedestrians and the motorists who are driving through there or using those public rights of way. Now, I will say one thing that I'd like to just completely get rid of. There is no such thing as I'm just going to go do work and I'm going to set up a templated traffic control plan or some typical install for my traffic control. That's not how it works. When you submit this to the traffic department or the public transportation department or to the city or county, they're going to analyze your shutdown with others and make sure that the overall plan is understood at a macro level. So there is no just, I'm going to go do whatever I want. It must be a part of an overall plan with the right authorities having jurisdiction. You must have everything planned. Number 4 is a part of the work, which means emergency work, traffic detours, and specified work zones that are all coordinated for the construction and to make it as easy as possible on the public. And number 3, you have to have the right planning. So that would mean planning for emergency procedures and emergency vehicles, right? How they get through. Traffic detours in case you need them and you've blocked off a throughway. And have you specified or allocated specific work zones for the construction crews? All of this to minimize the impact on the public. And number 4, and this is probably the most important, have you analyzed how you can minimize the impact with the following methods? Lane shifts or partial closures. Possible night work to reduce the impact during the daytime and rush hour? Have you considered phasing the work to make it less impact for the entire area? And have you considered the most advanced methods that will reduce the impact to the public? And finally, as a part of the planning and with the local AHJ, have you considered weather impacts, work delays, and seasonal considerations that might change your plan? And I hope the answer is yes. The bottom line here is, and I would love for you to add any requirements that you have as you've done this successfully, but my bottom line is that we need to reduce the impact. Not make any assumptions. Know that we must get permission. Always keep in mind the motorists and pedestrians and make sure that we're looking at all options and any hoops that we can jump through to make it easier on the public. But it has to be a part of a coordinated overall strategy and it cannot be willy-nilly. If you have substandard signage, you're going to hurt somebody or kill somebody. If you have substandard traffic control, you're going to hurt or kill somebody. If you don't give proper notice, it's going to be very difficult on people. And if you have not considered how people will flow through and around your project, we haven't dug deeply enough into this. We definitely need to go through the permitting process, the planning process, and give good notice. And it should be as easy as possible for people to traverse your project site in and around your traffic control and think about what would your grandma or your grandfather expect, what would you want for them. That's what we should provide to everybody because we are in a customer service business. I'm going to turn this video into a blog post so that you can go through and access any of the main points, but my hope is that you can really approach traffic control in a positive way or know how to interact with it or know how long it takes and get the proper mental perspective as you're making your plans. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.